It says we're live, so I'm gonna act like we are live. Welcome back to Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. That didn't sound right. I don't know if it was just me. Maybe that didn't sound right. Let's try that again. Welcome back to Star Wars in Galaxy. Okay, there we go. That was a little bit better. I'm your host Eli. This is a non-Star Wars in a Galaxy because there are films coming out that I'm obsessed with for various reasons and all that kind of stuff. And I want to talk about them and I want to do streams about them. And so here we are. We are talking about Wicked Part 1. So a little bit of history for me. My love of storytelling was founded on The Wizard of Oz, the original 1939 film. In my opinion, it's the greatest story ever told. It's why I got into storytelling. It's why I got into media analysis. It's why I'm here today. And I love all of the adaptations of The Wizard of Oz, including Wicked, which I got the privilege to see on Broadway just about 8-9 years ago. When I was even smaller than I am now. I know, difficult to believe, but here we are. I cannot express how amazed I am that John Chu and Winnie Holzman and Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande and everybody who did this were able to do this. It is truly incredible to me that they were able to pull off a cinematic achievement. And there was an achievement because the musical fans were going to have their expectations no matter what. And you had to get it to general audiences too. And it's a musical, which I know there have been other musical films in the last year. I'm thinking of Mean Girls. I'm thinking of, I think there was another one. I can't think of the other one right now. Like that specifically marketed themselves not as musicals. Oh, Joker 2. That marketed themselves not as musicals, even though they were, to some degree. I haven't seen Joker 2, so but yeah, legitimately, I'm gonna bring on my co-host for this now. But I'll give you my 10-second summary for when I finished watching Wicked. The first thing I did, I just sat in the screen, sat in the movie theater. This was a few hours ago, and my mind just flicked to this clip, which I think is a perfect summary of how I'm feeling about Wicked.
How?
How?
I don't even remember that clip, so I was like, "Where is this going?"
It's from a webisode from episode 1. One of my favorite. Shout outs to Scotty and Jerry from the Bombcast, who I think showed me that clip originally. It's very funny. Always remember, just how
they would be the ones to remember that. Yeah. How.
Yeah. Yeah, Buck. So Buck has seen this film 3 times. I've only seen it once.
3 times.
Because I know you and I've talked about this. You have a storied history with Oz and with music theater and all that kind of stuff. So explain some of your origins with that stuff while I put the link in the
highlights.
Chat.
I know that I was not a huge fan of The Wizard of Oz growing up. I know my mom tells me that I was scared of the winged monkeys, was probably why I didn't really glom onto it. It wasn't until probably 20 years ago when I read about that I discovered What Is This Feeling? And my best friend from high school, who was blonde, blue-eyed dude, and I would sing it together because it was a very love-hate relationship back then. And I think a lot of those themes of the musical, as we just begin to discover new songs, just kind of began to resonate, and Wicked quickly became a thing that I loved. Defying Gravity just resonated back in the day of MySpace. when you could put music on your profile, I literally just my profile song was the end of Defying Gravity. Just like that was it. It was just the end of Defying Gravity, and it stayed that until I left MySpace. Um, I got to see the musical in 2007, which was fantastic. My dad and I were in Hollywood, and I was like, "Oh, we should go see if there's any seats." And I literally got the last seat, me. And I told my dad, "All right, I'll see you in 3 hours. You gotta come and pick me up because I'm staying for the musical." And I loved it. It blew me away. It was Megan Hilty and Eden Espinosa, and I know that was his Adam Lambert was in the ensemble, right? Like you can remember Adam Lambert.
Really?
He stood out even then. Yeah, he stood out even then. Like,
What do you want from
and
him?
so yeah,
Uh,
he should make a cameo in part two. Is what I was hoping he'd make a cameo in One Short Day. That was the cameo I was looking for.
that was where they were like, okay, let's put everybody in this.
Let everybody in this.
I know we're just talking off screen, off camera about this, about like the and this, by the way, will be. I'm going to put this in the chat after I say this as well. This will be a spoiler-filled episode. Yes. This will be a spoiler-filled stream. Although spoiler feels a little bit disingenuous because, as I also was talking to Buck and some of our friends about before, we knew what was going to happen. There was no mystery.
Mostly, right? Like, because there have been, it's 120 years of Oz, 124 years of Oz, right? The Wonderful Wizard of Oz came out in 1900. Then the movie The Wizard of Oz was 85 years ago. And then the book Wicked is 1995, which is 29 years ago. Or like, it's like we had, like, this story is not unknown to people.
The story is not unknown. I'm specifically talking about. I'm just specifically talking about Wicked, which is like weird because and this is the thing I was interested to see, which is how faithful would it be to the
and it's music. Surprisingly like they just mostly what they do just lets the moments breathe. Because I got to see the musical again. It's in Seattle right now, so I got to see the musical again last Thursday, and so then like to go from Thursday to Wednesday and sing the musical to the movie, you're just like, oh, this is pretty tight. Like that act one, yes, they let moments breathe, and they add some scenes, but for the most part, it's literally just letting moments breathe, as opposed to like adding a bunch of shit for the sake of adding things.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly impressive that like, and we were talking about there's also we were talking about earlier the deceptive runtime, because it doesn't like a lot happens, but I don't think it feels as long as it is.
Right. It was what we were talking about with some coworkers, like because a bunch of my coworkers went to go see it. The musical, and before the movie, and they were like, they're like, how is it the movie going to be almost the same length as the full musical? And I'm like, I'm like, you sat through that, it flew by. I need you to think back, like how fast those scenes go. They're going like the line deliveries and everything are just snappy and going. And I was like, it's so much is happening. I don't think you realize that by like 2 hours and 45 minutes has gone by. Like so much is happening, and like if you could just slow down and let those moments breathe a little, it becomes this beautiful, beautiful thing. Wonderful performances by literally everybody.
Wonderful performances. I and everybody else, I'm sure, were skeptical about Ariana Grande, and I cannot tell you, I think she was born for this.
I was an Ari hater before she was cast, and up until I want to say the first official trailer or teaser trailer, like the Super Bowl trailer had me go, okay, maybe she can do this. Maybe she can do this. And then the first like teaser, I was like, okay, I'm sold. I have to stop being a hater. I'm sold. Yeah,
everybody's incredibly impressive.
But she was perfect for Glenda. Like
she was like, great.
Comedic timing is fantastic.
I think my biggest surprise, and again, it's not like I didn't think people were going to be bad necessarily. I just I was very impressed by Jonathan Bailey, as well.
Oh,
Um,
I've loved Jonathan for a long time. I'd seen him in an episode of Doctor Who, the bank heist episode, and I think it was called Time Heist actually. Uh, and uh, and they rob a bank, and he's one of the team with the Doctor and Clara, and it is one of my favorite episodes, and he is fantastic. And I was like,
yeah,
he seems a little queer. And then I saw Crashing with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, it was the miniseries, and that is funny and good. Anyone can see Crashing with Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Jonathan Bailey, go do it. It's fantastic. And so I've been like a huge fan. So I knew he can do it. And then leading up, we had Bridgerton and Fellow Travelers, and so that just made me more excited for him because he's just been continue to give these really fun, sexy performances on like different spectrums, And I was just like, yeah, Fierro is good, and yeah, he charmed the pants off of everybody in the library and dancing through life.
it's incredible. There were a bunch of like smaller details I will say that I absolutely forgot. Because it's just been so long since I saw the play and since I'd like refreshed myself on these details. Like I forgot the whole Fierro was a prince and this whole like match made to be with him and Glinda. I forgot about that. There were some other like small details. I forgot that Elphaba herself comes from nobility, although tracing the story, I'm like, oh yeah, well that does make sense as to where Netza is going to end up and
Yeah.
how all this
Ooh,
thing is going to happen.
I did notice
Um,
during the beginning of Dancing Through Life in the library, Nessa Rose's socks, because she's wearing really short socks with frills on like lace on the cuff, but they are pink and white stripes, which is a nod to the fact that she'll be wearing the black and white striped stockings at some point.
yeah, yeah, no, that's
Spoilers
fantastic.
for
Yeah,
part two, I guess, everybody.
again, spoilers, but like, not really. Um,
Like we know, who killed my sister.
yeah, no, it's so, and I think that those moments actually, I feel like those moments are so well, like the moments of it feels like John Chu's kind of like turning to the audience and winking, like the focus
Yeah.
on the hat or the focus on the lion.
Ooh,
It's like
yes.
we know who this is, and we know you know who this
Hmm.
is, and we know
A little bit.
we know you know who this is.
Yeah.
Let's keep it together now.
Yeah. It is nice to fully see the lion cub because I don't remember like in the musical. I don't think you actually see the lion cub. He's just in the cage, covered
I don't
by the
think so.
thing. I
Yeah,
think,
like
and then he's tail
the
on Act Two,
show
and that's
bucks, they
it.
were allowing live lion cubs into theaters.
Ooh, I loved. Okay, one details of the cage I thought was fun is that on both sides of it, like, because there's kind of that domed bit, but like on the both sides, it has a little Oz on the cage.
I did not catch that. Yeah, that's actually I
On
will
both
say
on both of the sides. Yeah,
like
the details are
like
fantastic.
the details are fantastic, and my thing is like do I have like there are there are some critiques I have with like the story, but I don't blame the film for the critiques for the story because the film just looked at the musical and just did it, which
Yeah.
it did its job so exceptionally well, and it's just a good story, well executed. And I always am kind of curious, and you've read the book, right? Yeah, you've read the
Hmm.
book.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious if the book gets into more detail about
Ooh.
this, um,
Okay. About
about
what?
this thing specifically, which is okay. So Dr. Dillman turns over the board. Oh no, it's hate speech. And then he's going. There's the something bad is the song in the musical, and then it's just a conversation in this one.
Hmm.
Hey, animals are in danger because we're less wanted, all that kind of stuff. And then we have the Dillerman thing, and um, he gets taken away, and he starts to
The
lose his
book
speech and
is
all that kind of
different.
stuff.
Okay, what's different about the book is that it's actually a murder. He gets murdered, and it's a bit of a murder mystery, but not really because we figure it out pretty quickly what happens in the book. Madame Morrible has a TikTok person like TikTok in the Return to Oz and later Oz
Oh,
books
holy crap! They exist
called
in this.
Bromatic. Huh?
I'm just shocked that they exist in this.
Yeah, and so his name. Well, in the book and the
Yeah,
musical are like
different thing. No, I
the
understand.
bones are there, but they're very different beasts. The
Yeah,
book is very adult. There's
yeah,
a
no, I
sex club and
understand.
all these things, right? But so Madame Marvel has her TikTok guy murder Dr. Dillman.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah, she's like straight up evil. Like
Well, I
and it
mean, wait,
and
you're telling me that somebody with the name Morrible might not be the
horrible,
best person?
horrible, horrible.
You're,
Horrible
is that what
Marvel
you're
is a
telling?
great name.
That's my one. That was always my one thing with the story, even of the musical. It's like the wizard is like, "Hi, I'm behind all of this," and I'm like, "Okay, but how? Like,
Right,
you're not personally writing those things."
right. There's a lot of like the idea that like kind of like in the like in the musical, like she kind of is a social climber, and she kind of works her way up to being closer to the wizard, and the wizard has conned all these people. Just I mean, it's a common thing, and we'll hear him talk about in the second act, during his song. Um, like it's all about who controls the history, like who gets to tell the tales is the winner.
Yeah,
And I get to tell this story, so I'm wonderful.
yeah,
I'm
no,
Oz the Great and Terrible, but I'm also the wonderful Wizard of Oz. You know,
it's the that was something I was very impressed by, and it was something I was you know interested to see how this film did, which was there is that point where the other shoe drops, where Elphaba
yeah.
realizes, and
Oh, you have no power
we all get to all realize this with her. Oh wait, not only do you have no power, you're actually a terrible person,
because you are the
and
reason the animals are losing their ability to talk and
yeah,
are
you're
turning
behind
the people against
everything.
animals. And he
And
says, all you have to do is give them a real good
a
enemy,
good
which
enemy,
we
yeah.
see constantly. We see the Republican Party just did that, right? With
Yeah, no,
trans
I there
rights.
were there were
It's
there were quite a few parallels to today's situations that I saw, and I'm like, ugh, dear God, like I was
it's
thinking,
like, I mean,
like
the genesis of the book Wicked is starts with a very political thinking. Gregory Maguire talks about being in the time of the Gulf War and thinking about uh, how propaganda, because he was living in the UK, but like you could see the propaganda in both the US and UK against Saddam Hussein, who wasn't a good person, but like how we framed that was very racist, and it was very strong, and there's a lot of propaganda in the news against
yeah,
Saddam. And how do we take something like that and apply that to like a fictional character? Because he wrote children's books and continued to take fairy tales and kind of turn them on their heads, and he took that with Elphaba, and I think it's crazy like how the people in power can control the narrative against their enemies, and it's how cause you see how quickly, right, how quickly it was that they changed. It was just a moment of this person in power who we believe in and we trust,
it,
and they said,
there's
"Oh,
also
she's horrible, kill her."
there's also a like there's also an undercurrent of this film and the musical that I always thought was very prescient, which is
Yeah.
the idea that so Elphaba gets to Shiz and everybody hates her because she's different.
Hmm.
And then Glinda, learns about all how powerful she is and all that kind of stuff, and social climbs her way to doing stuff.
Yeah.
And in my mind, the hatred really never stopped. They just kind of had to hide it for a while. And
Yes.
then once
Well, we saw that
she
with
goes
queer
against
people, right?
again, once she goes against the status quo, they're back to doing it, which is real. And so the message really is, well, they were just looking for a reason to hate.
Hmm.
And she just decided, screw it, I'm gonna give them reasons. And I think that's really interesting from and again it's I keep asking myself
It's
all
also
these questions about like because this does put the original story into such a weird and interesting place, especially with the revelations that, spoiler, we will get about Fiyero and Bach, especially in part 2,
yes,
about who they eventually become.
Well, those are massive departures from the original book, and then even from the Wicked novel. Like those are massive departures. Like
Really?
yeah, in the novel it's not like that at all. Like Nick Chopper is still Nick Chopper. He's not Bach. And Fiyero is not the Scarecrow. Spoilers again for Act 2. There's a thought in Elphaba's head that maybe, just maybe, Fiyero would still be alive because yes, he is killed by the wizard's men. But for years she thinks that maybe he's alive, And the reason she thinks it might be the Scarecrow is because you can't see his face, right? What's under the sackcloth, right? And so she thinks maybe it is Fiyero. And so but at that point she had worked herself into this like delusional frenzy because she hadn't slept in so long, and
so
and
it
she
wasn't
was mourning. Right? No, but it was not Fiyero.
That's interesting.
But they took
That's
that
very interesting.
idea from the book and put it into the musical, which I thought was wonderful. And I remember when I saw the musical, that blew my mind. I was not prepared for that. I was like, "Wait, what?" Because I read the book already at that point. I was like, "That's not how this happens."
And then Bach and the Woodsman are also different in the book.
Yeah, he's not Nick Chopper in the book. He becomes like basically taking on the role for like a very governorly kind of character, and is on a farm, and he marries one of the other girls from the Shiz, and who was one of Glinda's friends, cronies, like Fene and Shen Shen, but like one of the other girls, and they have like
really crazy.
18 kids or something. Like they have like a fuck ton of kids.
That's crazy. All this stuff is fascinating.
Because Bach is from the original book. He's the first place that Dorothy stops to stay the night. He's a munchkin that lets her stay at his house for the first night, and that's where she learns a lot about Oz is from Bach. And so they took that character and put it into the Wicked novel, and then now we see, he had the hots for Glinda in the book too, right? That's still there. Fiyero is actually an amalgam of like two different characters, which I'm sad because that other character had a nod in the musical, and that nod is now taken out of the movie. He in the musical he had the what are those, rickshaw, right? He had the rickshaw. The guy runs in, and he's like asleep on it, and that's when he almost runs into Elphaba. And his his foot soldier guy, like handyman, his name is Avric. And so a lot of the characterization of Fiyero from in the musical comes from the character of Avric in the book. There's a different character because Fiyero in the book is like another foreigner. He's different. He's strange. He's a prince, but he's not like that party boy that we get from Fiyero. That's a different character named Avric, and they kind of mushed up those two characters and they made him. But he had one nod of the musical, and they took it out because they don't have the rickshaw. We have the horse.
Yeah, who is voiced, I saw, by Stephen Stanton, because of course he is.
I meant to look at who the cast some of the that was, and I never.
The horse is voiced by Stephen Stanton, who I said in the description of this, we didn't know if we were going to get into Star Wars or not. I should have amended that. I knew we were going to get into it somehow.
Of course, we were going to get
Stanton,
into it.
Yes. AP5, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Wilhelm Tarkin, and all the random stuff.
You can't forget the most important one, with being Wilhelm Tarkin. Yes.
Speaking of the design of this movie, holy crap! Like, I was just so impressed. It looked so alive. I was very impressed with like don't get me wrong. I think Peter Dinklage did a very, very good job as Dr. Dillamond, but I was just like, amazed by that CG. It just looks so damn good to me.
Yeah, it is really fantastic and wonderful, and
It just looked. I don't know exactly how to explain it. It's just like there's you get into, of course, with any of those things, you get into Uncanny Valley territory.
yeah,
if
always.
it's done sloppily enough, but this was not, and I like, no, this is a talking animal. Screw this, we're in Oz. This is a talking animal. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Uh, and I thought that was just
I loved how
portrayed.
many.
Yeah.
I
What are you
did
saying?
love how many animals. I do love how many animals we end up getting.
Yeah, the
In
freaking
that one
snow
scene.
leopard and there was a snake. I think there was a snake, right? There was a snake.
I don't remember, but I just loved that there were a lot, and like some weird
Yeah.
like other goat, like lady goat thing or deer. I don't even know. And of course, the bear and the fox in the beginning when they
Oh yeah.
midwives, right?
Yeah, they didn't do that in the musical, did they?
I think it's a different animal in the musical. I think it's a goat in the musical. Yeah, it's a goat in the
Okay,
musical.
okay, again, it's been so long since I've seen the musical. I'm like, oh, she's being raised by a bear. I don't remember that in the, yeah, okay.
Oh, that's okay. I was okay. I thought okay, the Dulce bear, the bear that raises her. I was like, I know that voice. It sounds like Rose. Is it Rose? What is her name? Grace. Grace from Doctor Who, and it was Grace
Yeah,
from Doctor Who. So that was a nice
that's
cameo for me.
fantastic.
And then Akela Settle being Mrs. Coddle, which is, like, that is one thing that is different even from the musical, having to separate the character of Madame Morrible into two different
Morrible.
characters.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought that Morrible was the headmaster, just like Carte Blanche in the musical.
Yeah.
And it took me a little bit to be like, okay, so she's just like the dean of sorcery here.
Yeah. And I
which
like that
is not the head for reasons.
Because she's powerful and aloof and
look, Michelle Yeoh did great. Michelle Yeoh did fantastic. There is a like the dichotomy between, in my mind now, always will be between Evelyn and Evelyn Wang and Madame Morrible for Michelle Yeoh. It's crazy to me. She has such great range, being able to do both.
Yeah, I mean, can she sing? Not really, but does that matter? No, it doesn't. like, because she does, like, she pulls off. Because Madame Morrible doesn't do a terrible amount of singing. And
I was gonna say she doesn't do a lot of singing, so like it's not like I was more impressed, honestly. You know who I was most surprised by, and and I'm glad got it right, honestly. The person I was most worried about in this movie, going in, was Jeff Goldblum. Was Jeff Goldblum as the wizard?
So that man doesn't know how to stop singing, so I knew he was okay. One of my favorite Easter eggs was, "You did it, you actually did it," line. From Glinda standing right next to him, which is a nod to the wizard, Jurassic Park, when he's like, "You did it, you son of a bitch, you did it." And that blew. I just thought, like, she's standing right there next to fucking Ian Malcolm, and she says it, and I'm like,
that's good. That's very good. I did not catch that. No, I was just like, I remember like the other, like, Jeff Goldblum in a weird fantasy world that seems like beyond him. Role that I'm familiar with is the Grandmaster in Ragnarok, and that doesn't work as well for me. Like,
okay,
I don't know what it is. Like, I love Ragnarok. I love that movie. Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster just didn't work for me. It wasn't like I didn't think it was terrible or anything like that. I just didn't buy it.
I think it's funny. Part of what doesn't work for me is that it's to Jeff Goldblum. Like, where's the acting and versus
that was my thing. It's like, right? like where is is this not
Mhm.
Jeff Goldblum playing Sakaar leader Jeff Goldblum? Like,
Yeah,
is this man acting?
and I love
Where
him.
with
So don't get me
this, where with
wrong.
this, where
I
with the
still
wizard,
question.
where with
Hmm.
the wizard, I'm like, okay, no, I buy this. I absolutely buy
Yeah.
this.
I mean, the look too. To give him that like dirty mustache. That dirty mustache does so much
Yeah.
work. I gotta say,
I
that
I
dirty
am
little
so
mustache. I'm
excited.
just like,
I'm and I'm so glad they kept this little twist from the musical, so it can be. I'm sorry, everybody, if you don't know, it's going to be spoiled right now. It can be revealed in that like twist of the knife way at the end of part
hmm
two, where we never quite see that stranger's face that Elphaba's mother has an affair with.
yep,
We never
yeah.
quite see him. Oh, who could it
Have another
possibly be?
drink of
Oh,
green elixir.
somebody mysterious. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I have so much more confidence now that they're going to hit like that nail that knife twist of oh yeah.
Oh, I imagine that knife twist is going to hit harder than it does in the musical because
It-
they're able they breathe out these scenes like there is more establishing like why Alphabet reading the Grimoire is so good and like that she gets more time with the wizard where like I remember the first time I remember seeing it I felt like well, the wizard really isn't in this he's just kind of a side character but now I feel like he's like a main character again and like you kind of like him right up until you realize he's a bastard, right? Which is
yeah.
how he went. Like you're supposed to kind of like him, you know. And even
And,
in the books,
and
he
I was gonna say that's the genius of the
because
Wizard of
who hates
Oz.
Jeff Goldblum?
Yeah, but that's the genius of the story is like you know you're um you meet I would say you meet the wizard in the original story at about the
Mhm.
same time of the story that you meet the wizard in Wicked. Maybe a little bit earlier for Wicked, but
Yeah,
not
if
that
you could,
much. If you're thinking of like dividing it two acts, Act Two being let's go kill the Wicked Witch of the West. Well, yeah, you meet the wizard at the end of Act One, and both times you are presented with the same thing, which is this guy actually isn't anything. He can't do anything. He's a big fat phony from Omaha, from Atlantic City in The Wiz, which it's 32 minutes in, and this is the first time I'm mentioning The Wiz. Everybody be proud of me, because that is infamously my if my close friends know that was a childhood favorite of mine, and still my favorite adaptation of the story ever. Where it's Richard Pryor and he's from Atlantic City. Um,
yeah,
but what was I gonna say? But the way the twist goes from thereafter, we have the of course we have the everything I've known is a lie here,
Mhm.
and of course even in the original version that like just wonderful like even though he is a phony, even though he is like the the revelation from Glinda, which I am still able to separate in my mind. Thank God, this and the like OG movie and stuff like that. Like the whole you had the power in you all along. Like you just needed to discover for yourself um
Mhm.
the journey, which I think is like uh which I think is really touching. Um I was interested because we saw the shot. This was very well done in the trailer, and I think
Okay.
kept it. And I was just thinking about this. Kept enough people on their toes, to be like. But remember, we saw that shot of Dorothy and the companions going to the Emerald City. Actually, sorry, we saw that shot.
Yeah, that
In
shot.
that shot in the trailer. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. It ends defying gravity. They can't do this. And then it's just
Who?
that quick pan over. Um,
Yeah, which I feel
and
I felt that's probably how they were going to do that shot. What I'm more curious about is we do see them in front of the wizard in his throne room. So that's what I'm curious about. As well, when are we going to see that? Because there were several things that were not in this movie that were in the previous trailers that will probably be in the second one. Like we knew
That's very interesting that
because there is a shot of them in front of the wizard, and like in the Wizard of Oz. So there's the four of them there. But there's also I want to go back right before it pans up. You know, this movie starts. You have the destruction, the water, the hat, the monkeys burst through the window. They go flying, and across the bridge,
which was such a
somebody
crazy
riding
way
on
to
a horse.
open it.
Who is riding that horse?
Legitimately, I didn't catch the horse.
They're right. It's in the trailers, so go back and watch one of the trailers. But they're right there, like right at the beginning. There's somebody riding a horse across the bridge from Kiamoko right before it pans up to the Dorothy and friends. There's somebody on a horse. You can't see who it is because they're riding away from us. Riding on a horse, riding away. Who's that person riding away from Kiamoko?
Yeah, because they can't. Because like my first thought, oh well, horse. I think Fiero, but like no, he's the Scarecrow. Can't be him.
So we know where he's at. It could be Elphaba.
It could be that's actually the question that I'm interested that I'm most be interested in is because of course in the Wizard of Oz and in the book she dies.
Mm-hmm. And every adaptation except for this one, she dies.
Yeah, but because Wicked is a musical and they had to keep, you know, they wanted to at least salvage something from it. She lives.
Yeah. Which I thought was a wonderful surprise. I remember I did not know. I saw it in 2007. I did not know. Like what I knew was the book and the soundtrack. There's no evidence of that in the soundtrack. And so when she pops up out of that fucking like trap door on the stage, he comes over and he like lifts the hat and then he locks on the thing. And it was like, what? Like I couldn't believe it. And then she pops out and I was just like, what? Because every adaptation she dies.
So the most interesting thing I've heard about this, honestly, and actually I just wanted to, before we go into a whole nother big conversation, I do want to do this as somewhat of a call-in stream, so I did put the StreamYard link down in the chat. Come join us, talk Wicked, talk about Oz, talk about your experiences with it. Wasn't gonna say. Oh yeah. So I don't know if you've seen this clip, and I will send it after, and I will like quote it on Blue Sky and all that kind of stuff. But there was a clip during, I believe, during the press tour for this. And somebody was interviewing Winnie Holzman and Stephen Schwartz, who obviously wrote the book and music respectively for the original musical.
Yeah.
And then they asked an interesting question that I didn't expect to get an answer from. They said they asked, "Oh hey, so what about Wicked Part 3?"
3 and 4 is what they said.
Yeah,
is what the questioner asked.
Yeah, and they said, well, something is in the works. And I'm like,
it won't be called Wicked Part 3.
It won't be called Wicked Part 3, but something's in the works. But which is enough to pique my interest because I'm just like, well, and honestly, I think it's because
it would have to be a wild departure from the books, which I think is fun because it is its own universe, right? It's its own.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm starting to wonder, and I was like legitimately before this I was actually going through just on Wikipedia, just refreshing myself a little bit because I haven't read these, and I might read them, like it depends on like timing stuff and all that kind of stuff, but I was like reading summaries of the sequels that McGuire wrote, and I'm like,
no, they're very very odd.
I'm just thinking, like, is there any chance they might try adapting Son of the Witch?
You couldn't, because the musicals end so differently.
Right, because you can't have
it wouldn't work because they end so differently. So in the book,
in the book, she dies.
Son Yeah, right. But Fiero
Yeah.
and Elphaba are dead. Where at the end of the musical,
Yeah.
they're alive. But also, they have a son who, at the end, by the end of the book, is about 14, and um, and Fiero. When we meet Fiero, he's a prince. He's married because he has to,
Right.
because he's a prince, and so but he's surprisingly still a virgin when they when they meet. But wait, but there's a 5-year jump because when Alphaba, kind of like this, where Alphaba goes to the Emerald City and then is disenfranchised by the wizard, and she decides that she's going to be like a guerrilla terrorist, uh, and like, and so she's so she's like a guerrilla terrorist in the book, which I think is fantastic. But you don't get a lot of that in the book because it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
what happens in the story.
Yeah.
Um, and so when she meets Fiero again 5 years later, he has like three kids. I want to say 3 kids, and then they have their affair, right?
Yeah.
And so then because the wizard is hunting for Elphaba, they ended up capturing Fiero, and she doesn't know. Like they have their little lovers' hole, like their little place they go, and she goes and she tells him to get out of the city during their version of Christmas, which is called Lurleen because they have a god named Lurlina, and she tells him to get out of the city. He doesn't get out of the city, and he comes back to her little hidey hole, and they kill him. And so when she comes back, all she sees is the blood everywhere, and she just knows. So then she ends up escaping the city and ends up in a convent, and she kind of just goes into a fugue
Just
state for a year.
wild.
So she doesn't
All of
know.
this is
She
wild.
doesn't right. She doesn't know that she has a baby during that time. She just knows that this little boy is there in this convent with her, and she doesn't know she had a baby because she just was in a fugue state for a year, and she doesn't speak the whole time that she's there until one of her college friends who the night that she leaves Shiz goes to the sex club and has sex with a tiger, and it's never the same after that, and he dies, and the implication being that like because this was
A
written
tiger?
during yes, it was because remember animals or people are all there,
No, I
right?
know.
Like
I understand.
yeah, yeah,
I'm just like,
yeah.
I'm getting through my brain this
Oh
whole
yeah, no,
thing.
it's that's what I'm saying. Like the Wicked, the book is not for kids, and I'm just my brain is going like, how many parents are going to be like, oh, here's the book, read the book, not knowing
Well,
that
that's
like this is
honestly what I was wondering.
not
Like,
for
just
kids,
going into this, like, I'm
not for
like,
kids.
obviously the musical is way more family friendly than the book is.
Yeah.
But I was just interested to see, like, because I didn't know like what this was adapting. I thought, oh, this is probably going to take a lot from the musical.
It is the broad brushstrokes of like it really is the broad brushstrokes of the story because when
Yeah.
you get to post Fio's death, like almost none of that stuff is in the book or in
I
the
was just
musical.
gonna say, like, I was interested to see what the movie was doing because I'm like, oh, I think they're probably just mostly taking from the musical, but maybe they might do
Yeah,
something from the book. I'm like, and then I saw like so many young kids in my theater. I'm just like, this is either gonna go really well or really badly.
yeah, and it went like
Luckily,
okay.
it was the
I'm glad.
first.
Yeah, I'm glad with the changes. Again, like we talked about them splitting Madame Morrible, um, as a character into 2 parts. Although it is sad to cast Kayla Settle and not allow her to sing because goddamn
Yeah,
that woman can sing. Um,
yeah,
but like also adding that whole bit with all the cameos in one short day because we get the
yeah.
cameos. I
So
think we
we were
could
talking
call
about
them
just
cameos. We could call them cameos for
these
Adina
are
and Kristen.
these
These are
are
legitimately
cameos. We
cameos,
have Kristen
right?
Chenoweth and I cannot.
Adina Menzel.
I'm so sorry. I have to say the wickedly talented Adele Dazeem.
I just knew this was going. She's
No,
never
but
gonna survive that man's fumble.
no, I'm so sorry, Nina. No,
Queen
it was
Elsa
one of those
herself.
things where I thought I remember like even beforehand thinking, are they gonna like they should put Adina and Kristen in there? That'd be fun. And then I saw them, I'm like, oh, that's a cool nod. And then the movie get going, and they're like, and
Yep.
they have like a bit of an extended cameo With
It is
Athena
extended
even
cameo,
getting
but
to
to do her
shout the which is
Yep.
which is incredible. Seeing that, of course, we're building to Cynthia Erivo's actual Elphaba doing the exact same thing at the end.
And then we talked about, like, seeing Winnie Holtzman and Stephen Shorts right after that, and as cameos in that too. But
absolutely,
what is crazy about this is that what happens here, because if you've seen the musical, they're only nod to so far in the movies that we have to the clock of the time dragon is the line at the beginning of the movie. According to the clock dragon, the hour is the 13th hour or whatever. That's the only line we get to the clock dragon. But in the book, it's this theme that runs throughout the whole series, is this clock dragon with this little dwarf that, like, it's like this clockwork thing that looks like a dragon. If you've seen the musical, it's the thing around the stage, right? And there's the dragon at the top with its wings and its face, right? So that's a thing on wheels that just travels around Oz, and there's this little dwarf and his little minions that go around, and he kind of like prophesizes to people, but also like reveals people's secrets. Like, this farmer is fucking the milkman's wife, and really that girl is his daughter, and all these weird things, right? Again, it's not a very kid-friendly book. And so, but there's also all this world building that I love that Gregory does in those books about they're different gods, because there's very much Elphaba's father isn't a governor, he's a priest to the unnamed god. A minister of a missionary of the unnamed god. And but there's also Lurlina, which is like kind of the pagan goddess. And then there's also this witch Cambrisha, which is kind of the image, kind of looks like Elphaba. All right, so there's a bit of like prophecy of Elphaba kind of fulfilling, kind of Cambrisha reborn.
Which is how they get that in there, instead of just kind of like, instead of just kind of like just shoving it in there.
Yes. So without having to do all of these things about name dropping, they're like all the old wise ones in the musical now, right? There isn't the clock dragon. We don't see it so far. I'm kind of hoping just somewhere we'll get, like, knock on wood, we'll get like in the background or something, just the clock dragon just being somewhere. The line is great, but I would love to see it. But the old wise ones now fulfilling the roles of like these ancient deities, because like it gets too bogged down by like the world building that Gregory does in 7 books, because there are 7.
Which is crazy.
There are 4. Well, 8. There'll be 8 in March, because there's the 4 Wicked Years books, and then the 3 books about Elphaba's granddaughter, which I've not read, and then there's a new prequel book with Alfie's childhood. So
which I know even Buck disagrees with me on this one, but I just gotta say, wow, it's so lazy that they're getting the main character of a book. Their granddaughter is the new hero, and they have to find a new legacy LA from their grand. Wait, this is sounding like something we also like. Anyway,
but in this, those books, the 3 books about with the Elphaba's, she has to go against her great grandfather, not her grandfather.
Yeah, it's still.
My understanding is the wizard. My understanding is that Dorothy and the wizard come back by that point in the series. So
somehow the Dorothy returned.
Oh my god, that bitch returned so many times. Like, I also recently read the first 6 L. Frank Baum books. I read the first 4 originally because bit of buck lore. I had worked on a TV. Yeah,
like I can tell you this. Apparently, I needed this, like I saw this on the internet like a few weeks ago, and apparently I needed it spelled out in such clear language to get this out to me, because only a few weeks ago did I realize that Elphaba is LFB. Bro. Only a few weeks ago did I actually put those two things together.
Bro, that's like what is like the most known Star Wars trivia? Like, everybody knows. That's that.
Yeah, no, I don't know why it took me so long
It's
to
the Viggo
address
Mortensen
that.
broke his toe when he kicked
It's the
the
Viggo
helmet in.
Mortensen broke his toe of Wicked.
Yeah, yeah, it really
it's the
is. It
Stormtrooper
legitimately is.
it's the Stormtrooper bumping his
Right.
head.
Yes. That. Yes, it's
It's
that. Oh my god.
it yeah is which yeah, and it's
It is even
my
funny because I'm looking at IMDb as trivia. There isn't a lot of trivia yet, but that was literally the third trivia bit on the. That's what I was looking at as you said it. I was like, bro.
yeah, no,
I
it's
thought there was I actually thought there was a cameo or an Easter egg about that in the movie because one of the luggage in the beginning had what I thought was LFB, but it ended up being LSP, and I was like I was bummed because I was like that was a good moment to put LFB, and I thought I was like oh there's an Easter egg, but no, it's just LSP, which could be a different Easter egg, just not the one I thought.
yeah. Now I was the only other the only Easter egg I really noticed in there, which I was a little bit disappointed by, but that was like mostly my own perceptions and love of certain Oz lore in a specific way
Okay.
that was blinding me for this one was I was very impressed, first of all, at the end of The Wizard and I. The Elphaba like gets up to that cliff. I'm like, oh my god, are we about to see the deadly fucking desert?
Which apparently we are going to see in the next movie.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they filmed in Egypt.
Oh hell yeah! Oh hell
I'm
yeah!
excited for that. I'm so excited for that because we've never really seen. Well, okay, Return to Oz. There is a bit of
Return to Oz. I was gonna say, don't say it. Don't say anything. Return to Oz. Which
Return to Oz. I did just watch that.
And actually I can see it on the stream here as well on the map, which is this is of course a map of the Land of Oz. What I think is interesting, what I thought was interesting in the film, and I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly what it was called, but like I think this is just a case of no one gets their naming straight with this, and that's fine. Because here it says impassable in the
right
in the film.
Well, that
it
was
said,
in
I
the
think,
movie,
like something like treacherous or something like that, or was
but
it impassable?
But one of the maps, and one of the maps, it does say impassable.
It says impassable. Okay, which is fine. Again, it's fine. I like Deadly myself.
Desert, the Great Sandy Waste.
I like Deadly myself.
Desert. It has different names. Like
yeah,
even
no,
on your thing here, it says.
Yeah,
actually, I'm so glad
Deadly.
you have this map up.
Just cut off.
I'm so glad you have this map up because like Oz lore changed so much. Like he was retconning. Frank was retconning shit so much during those books. I got only got 6 books, and I'm like, bro, you retcon things so bad here that it's so fucked up. And then he wrote 8 more. I was like, I don't even want to know what those other 8 are like.
Yeah,
he was just trying to pay his bills.
There is a hope. So we were talking about this film a little bit earlier. That I just have to get back to, just because I saw this film for the first time a few weeks ago while I was doing some prep to get ready for this. But like, now having seen Return to Oz and and knowing a bit more of that extended, like I'm like, would it be too empty? Like this is me and my this is me and my brain like too used to getting this is what happens to me and my brain after people started saying, oh, what if we get Cobb Vanth in The Mandalorian season 2? What the fuck? There's no way we're gonna get Cobb Vanth, a guy from a few chapters in a book in season 2 of The Mandalorian. Flash to us getting Cobb Vanth.
Interludes, not chapters.
Interludes, but still. It's cut to us getting Cobb Vanth as Timothy Olyphant as Cobb Vanth. So this is totally my just like absolute like I'm sorry, Ken. I'm sorry, Jennifer. I'm sorry, Joseph. I'm not speculating responsibly right now, but I'm like, what if we get the Gnome King?
I would die if we got a fun version of the Gnome King.
Not even like
I'd be very happy.
Not even just the Flash of the Gnome King.
Right. No, it would be fantastic. Just because he is probably the most reoccurring villain of the series.
I was gonna
other
say,
than maybe Mombi. other than maybe Mombi, but Mombi doesn't come back in any of Frank's books. The Gnome King is in was in like three of the like
Yeah, I was
three of
gonna
the
say.
books. He's in
And
the sec, or he's in the wait. Is it the third? Yeah, he's in the third and the sixth book, and like the sixth book is like all about him. Just like it's probably one of the better villains written in that Frank
yeah.
does, because Frank doesn't do villains very well. It's probably the best written villain because he's like trying to he's Thanosing the shit out of that. Like he's trying to gather all of these armies to take Oz, the Emerald City specifically, and you're just like, oh damn, and it's like he gets people. He gets
I'm
people
now
who are
just
like worse than
imagining.
him.
I'm now just imagining like the Gnome King grabbing a sword at the post-credit scene, part 2. Gnome King grabs
I'll
a
do it
sword.
myself.
And fine, I'll do it myself, like Thanos in Age of Ultron.
I can see that shit so good. Oh my
The
god!
Gnome King will return in.
You know, like each of the adaptations has done their own like weird shit with like the Land of Oz and the witches. You know, because we like traditionally we know that like in the movie, the 39 movie, 39, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
You know, like they combined Glinda into one character, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like there's a tradition in the Oz stories of either combining or separating characters to
Yeah,
fulfill different
absolutely.
roles. Like
That's
in the
actually
Return
something
to Oz,
interesting.
they did that with Mombi and Princess
And the
Langwidere,
Gnome King.
right?
Oh no,
What
no,
did they
they
do with
did
Gnome
Mombi and somebody else, not the Gnome, not the
Princess
Gnome King.
Langwidere? Princess
Okay,
Langwidere,
that's who it is. Okay.
yeah, or however you say her name. And
I was just
I was really bummed by that because Mombi is like also a recurring character. She comes up, like, and she's devious. And
yeah.
like at first, when you first meet Mombi, she's just like, oh, she's like a lesser bad witch that was like hiding out, because there couldn't be bad witches in the north or the south, right? And so the Witch of the North, who wasn't originally named in the novel, but was named in one of Frank's play adaptations of his own book, named her. Um, she's only in that first scene when Dorothy shows up, and that's the only time you see her. She doesn't show up again, but she's not, and she's given a nod in the second book when we meet Mombi, because Mombi's like, I can't be an out and out bad witch in the north because the good witch would like kill me. And so, but
it's like you can't even. It's like you can't even say things these days, man.
Right, you can't. But to combine Mombi with Princess Langwidere just made me so mad because like Mombi is kind of devious, and
I was too disturbed by the fact that she was that this woman was literally putting on her head for the day like you'd put on a friggin' coat.
Did you? Well, that's all Princess Langwidere. So that's like none of that's Mombi. Mombi's like old crone witch, right? And it's funny because she does get a name drop in the movie. Did you catch it?
I didn't catch it.
Okay, so when they're doing their orientation at Shiz, and that dude, whoever he was talking about the professors. He names her as the professor of biology or something like that. Or and so Professor Mombi is one of the professors before they introduce Dr. Dillamon. It's like
that's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah. I was reading somebody else was saying that there was another name drop, but I didn't catch it there. So
interesting. Yeah, I'm just thinking. I'm also now just fantasizing about getting a TikTok appearance.
I need a TikTok appearance. I'm surprised there wasn't even one in the Emerald City. Because I'm not TikTok people. Like TikTok people were a thing. Like, let's do that.
I had this thought in my mind earlier, which I think would be very funny, and very early 20th century humor, like the Wizard of Oz would often do at times. I was just thinking because obviously TikTok's whole gimmick, for those of you who haven't seen Return to Oz, is that he's a robot, but he has to be wound up, different, he has to be wound up to think, and wound up to walk, and wound up to talk,
and to speak. Yep.
Yeah.
And yes, so, 3 wind ups.
And so I
And
was
if you
just
don't wind
thinking,
up all
we never.
three,
So that's the thing.
like I remember, yeah,
I was just thinking
because he's
about
not
this.
really a
This.
robot. He's a clockwork person, and I think it'd be interesting to have
Yeah.
clockwork like soldiers for the wizard.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking. What I was thinking was oh yeah. So Dorothy never does this in Return to Oz, but because like sometimes the winding clocks run out. And so he's left standing there, not walking, not talking, probably thinking, we don't know, until he's unable to. But I'm just imagining like somebody winds him up wrong, winds up the talking and walking without the thinking, which is never done. And
Well,
there's
actually,
that line.
this is actually incorrect for the movie. That's I guess I just watched this. This is incorrect for all those things because he does talk about how like when the last thing to wind down when he was stuck was his thinking. So he's stuck, not being able to talk, walk, and then not being able to talk, and then last thing he's just stuck there. He can't say anything, can't do anything. So he's just thinking.
Yes, I understand.
But then later when they were supposed to be guessing the different items in the Gnome King's kingdom,
in the room,
he starts going in the room. He starts getting a little argument. One of those scenes. He starts not make sense, and it's because she didn't wind up his thinking, and he's talking, but there's no thinking.
I was just thinking about there. I think it's the line from the Scarecrow in the OG film,
Yes.
which is like some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
Yeah. So relevant.
Or as we would say in the Star Wars land, one does not speak unless one knows. Nobody focused on that line because Keller and Beck, because for obvious reasons. But yeah, no, my God,
the ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Qui-Gon Jinn.
Not get touched. Yeah, no, I would love to see TikTok. I'd love to see any of the Clockwork people.
I think the person I would love to see, although it wouldn't make sense timeline wise, so I get it, would be Jack Pumpkinhead. I don't know why I love Jack. I do. He's kind of annoying, but I love him anyway. I just think as a character.
Again, my only exposure to the Pumpkinhead is and my thing is like any nods that we can possibly get, like anything that we can possibly do to honor the Wiz, it will always like.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Like if all you need to do, all I'm saying is just have Dorothy go. Well, so all we got to do is just like ease on down, like just something as simple as that. You don't need to go overboard. You just
no. I think something like that. There's their version of the Kalidas is fun, but I think there are ways that they could do. There's something they could do that's a little
trash,
more
the trash cans.
Mm-hmm.
It could be. I'm so used to the OG film. I'm so used to the OG film, which obviously removes the part with the Kalidas. That I forget that is like supposed to be that's supposed to be that's a parody of. Or what would really like if I were writing Wicked Part 2, what I would absolutely do is when Dorothy finds Bach, now obviously the Tin Woodsman, she would be like, well, how did you get this way? And Bach would, tell her, oh, I was like, my body was cut up and replaced everything but a heart. And Dorothy would be like, wait, so you can't, you don't have a heart, you can't love? And he'd go, well, that's the whole tragic point, my friend. Which is the beginning of the Tin Man song in The Wiz.
Yeah.
Which
yes, it would be.
Which would be my dream, but it's not going to happen, obviously.
I am so fucking curious to know, because now, I've never thought about this before, but now I am. Is how does how do all that time that Fiyero and Bach spend together with Dorothy,
Yeah.
like, what conversations are being had? Does Fiyero reveal that he's Fiyero? Does Fiyero know that Bach is the Tin Woodsman? Because I'm assuming at some point Elphaba has to have told him.
It's the I never remember owning a droid of this. Like, you know, R2 and Obi-Wan
I need to know how
right
this works.
friggin' there in the entire background, knowing full well. I could just imagine, like, you know, you have to imagine the conversation, like, hey, you didn't tell him who his father was. And Obi-Wan's like, no, of course I didn't tell him who his father was. Do you want to tell him who his father was?
Right, but like pretending you don't know who the Cowardly Lion is. Again, in the book, they're together for weeks. So like, in the original book, and even in the Wicked book, they're together for weeks. Like, so like, does Fiyero just not bring up the fact that he knows who the Cowardly Lion is, that he saved the Cowardly,
or the Wicked Witch,
the Cowardly Lion, right? Like, or the fact that like he knows who Bach is, like, Bach,
yeah,
like there's at some point you've got to realize, oh, this is Bach. We were best friends. we were pining after the same girl.
Yeah, no, it's very funny just thinking about it's very funny just thinking about like I think it was some sketch on SNL or something like that where like or something like that about like people talking differently when they're with different people, and I just imagine like Fiyero and Bach in their transformed states just being in the background like, yeah, no, I wonder if I sometimes wonder if Elphaba is alive too and what she's doing. Oh yes, Dorothy, we must go and go to the Wizard of Oz.
Right. There is a bit of a convention in the book that allows for Fiyero to be. There is a bit of a convention to allow because the Scarecrow does save Lear. Because Lear goes with in the books, the son of Fiyero and Elphaba goes to the Emerald City with them, right? So technically, there are 5 returning to the Emerald City, and and the Scarecrow is the one that kind of gets him out of the Emerald City, so that way, like, because he's living on the streets at that point, like, just kind of forget about him. Dorothy asks the Cowardly Lion to look after him, and the Cowardly Lion's a dick, and and doesn't pay attention at all to Lear, and so Lear ends up on the streets, and Scarecrow gets him out.
There was another hope of a cameo that I would like to see in part 2. I was just thinking of as well, which I saw actually that the one of the daughters of Judy Garland had seen Wicked Part 1, and she said she loved it.
That would be fantastic.
If we got like one of the kids of the original actors, like Judy Garland and Ray Bolger and Burt Lahr and
Ray Bolger Jr., right? He married, what's her name?
I don't know.
Was it Jack Haley Jr.? Maybe that was what it was. Maybe Jack Haley Jr.
But any of their like descendants would be very, very fun to see. Just for a little cameo. Bolger didn't have any children, so
no, they didn't have. But he did marry Liza Minnelli. Jack Haley Jr., which is Jack Haley's kid, married Liza Minnelli. I thought that crazy. That was a crazy. It's crazy, like some of those things. I know any cameos from the original. I think any cameos from The Wiz would be fantastic. I think any cameos from Return to Oz would be fantastic. I'm gonna say it. I don't want to see any cameos from the Oz the Great and Powerful. I'm sorry, I don't.
From what?
I don't.
From what?
I mean, from Oz the Great and Powerful.
From what? Okay, I've done my bit long enough. Trying to like I don't like this is not a Kingdom of the Crystal Soul situation, or like it used to be for me, where like or like it is for a lot of people, where it's like where I don't acknowledge that Oz the Great and Powerful exists. No, I will acknowledge it. I just don't like it very much.
Yeah. I was watching. Okay, so I was gonna watch it before watching Wicked, but for whatever reason, Disney took it off for a couple weeks or so.
It's
Like
really
it was
weird.
there in October. It was there in October. I added it to my watch list. Then they took it away, and now it's back again as a newly added. And I'm like, fuck you guys. I see now what you're
That's
doing.
probably why they did it. That's probably why they
That's
did
exactly why they did it. But I was like, fuck you guys. Because
Yeah.
I wanted to watch it before. I don't like it. So I watched I think I have about an hour left. So I watched about half of it today. And I'm like, oh, this movie is so bad. It's so bad.
I mean, like
the CG
here's
is
the
just
thing.
awful. The camera movements suck. I'm not a fan of Sam Raimi, so I'm just like,
Here's my thing about
kill me now.
about the film. There's some parts of it that genuinely do work for me.
Yes.
Like the switch from black and white to the just like the homage to the original.
I don't like it.
Fantastic, classic. Love how they worked that in there. And unfortunately, I have to say, because of the things that we know this guy has done. So I'm not I'm not saying
we should not
I
name
condone
him.
any. Yeah, I'm just going to say.
There are two people we should not name.
But anyway, I was going to say the first person. What I was going to say is I do think he had I think he did pretty decently as the wizard. I liked him.
Who's as we say, he's a con man. He's a con bug, as they say in the books. Like he's supposed to be kind of sleazy and he's a con artist.
No, totally believable for me.
If you're gonna cast a con artist to play a con artist, I think you did well. Kind of sleazy.
I want to pull up this comment, which is weird. So this is one of the things I want to talk about this because this is
finally
really
watched
weird.
this. I finally watched this.
See, I've never watched it, which is weird because two of my biggest obsessions as when I was much younger were the Muppets and the Wizard of Oz. So the fact that I have never watched this is astonishing to me.
I recently did a watch of everything Muppets. I could get my hands on everything. Even Muppet Babies on YouTube. And this might be my least favorite thing that the Muppets have ever done, and that's hard to say.
I've heard it got some bad reviews. I've heard which is weird, which is so weird to me because it's just two things that normally
I should like
on
it.
their own.
I should like it, but I think the production.
It's like saying a peanut butter and jelly sandwich doesn't work. What? The hell?
You can see why it was the last of the Henson Productions.
By that time he's gone, right?
Well, no, I was saying the production, was right before it was the last thing before Disney really.
Although I will say I'm interested to see this. This has been on my list for a while, and one day when I have the time, I will absolutely get to this. I'm sorry, Ray, I didn't mean to shit all over Muppets Wizard of Oz. I do want to watch it someday.
There are redeemable things because the Muppets are always good. I will say that.
Yes, of course, the Muppets are always fantastic. I'm interested because I saw they released this on Disney Plus. They did they did a Muppets version of the adaptation, which I also want to see, of Haunted Mansion.
Well, you didn't see that yet? Oh, that's so much fun.
I'm sure it's great.
Fun.
I'm not a big spooky movie guy, so I've
literally watched that. I've watched that every year for Halloween since it's come out. I love it so much.
the regular one, the live action one.
The Muppets.
Muppets Haunted Mansion. Okay, that's
every year, ever since it came out, which has only been 3 or 4 years now, but every year since it's come out, I watch it every year. I love it. The first year it came out, I think I watched it 3 times just because I liked it that much. I was like, this is fun. But I love the Muppets. I was probably one of the few people who liked the 2015 Muppet Show, the Muppets, where they were they were the talk show stuff.
Yeah,
that was so good. It was so smart, and I was so pissed when it got canceled. I watched that shit religiously.
I will contend to you that I watched the first episode, pretty soon after. I remember watching the first episode with my parents turning to each other and going, "Well, that sucked." And then myself thinking, admittedly, similarly. I'm not sure. I haven't gone back to it. Like again, it's been so long that like I don't remember. I will defend the films, the Disney Muppets films,
They're all
till the day I friggin'
they're good.
die.
They're
I
so
will
good.
defend
Even
the
Most Wanted is really
2011.
good.
I will defend 2011 and Most Wanted until the day I freaking die. I love both of them
so
so
good.
dearly. Every time any new franchise piece or IP piece or whatever thing is announced in Hollywood, the instant thing I think in my head is, we're doing a sequel. We're back by popular demand. Every time,
Yeah.
without fail. Love,
Yeah.
freaking
Oh, man.
love.
Which is,
plus
you know,
the Muppets 2011. I'm very convinced, like in the same way that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull did this. The Muppets in the Muppets 2011 and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull walked so that the Force Awakens could run. Like it's all those the great legacy sequel formats, like literally getting the band back together, as we see in the 2011 Muppets, is so damn good. I also saw I saw somebody, what was it? It was I saw somebody say something on Blue Sky that was about that's about that was about Tex Richmond, the Chris Cooper villain in the 2011 movies, and I can tell you that I have that with friends I have absolutely worn to death the jokes that he does with Uncle Deadly and Bobo, where he goes maniacal laugh. So
yes.
freaking funny.
Did you watch the Muppets Mayhem?
Man, I don't think I have. I haven't gotten back on the most recent Muppets things I've watched. I'm pretty certain is Most Wanted.
Oh dang! Yeah,
So
I
I'm
thought
behind on
Mayhem
that
was
stuff.
great. And I even love the theme song for Mayhem. Mayhem was great because it centers around Mayhem. The other Muppets,
Yeah,
are really in it,
Dr.
and
Teeth
it's
and
it's so
yeah,
good. I'm sad that there wasn't like, let's do another season. I was like, could you please
yeah.
stop doing
No,
like Muppet shows and
I'm
not doing more than one season? Because it's pissing me off.
yeah, no, I think it'll be.
How do we talk about Muppets? We're supposed to be talking about Wicked.
Yeah, no, well, it was because of Muppets Wizard of Oz is how we got there.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
one of the things I loved about Muppets Wizard of Oz is that Miss Piggy plays all four of the witches, both witches of the good of the north and south, both wicked witches of the east and the west.
Okay, you need
And
to stop with that for a second. That is so funny.
I fucking love it, like because otherwise she wouldn't have a role, right? Like if she played, because they stay again adapt, to the fact that each of the witches kind of have small roles. And so
There's a Family Guy joke that reminds me of where I think it was in one of the Family Guy Star Wars adaptations where where they have like Lois playing another one of the female characters in Star Wars, and Lois goes like, "Wow, we really need to have more female characters on these shows." So the fact that Miss Piggy is playing all four of the witches is fantastic,
right? Which is weird because like Elphegom is quite a feminist, right? Because like the convention of like having a female lead and having four witches who were basically the governors of their states, and other than that, like a man had usurped the power of Oz in the Emerald City, and then they reinstate Ozma. Like all those things are very awesome, and it's not uncommon to continue to have queens in power, and Ozma and Dorothy becoming like really good friends, and like ruling Oz together is just like it's those themes are there, and it's crazy that for the Wizard of Oz though there weren't a lot of female roles. I mean, there were a lot, but they were kind of small roles.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you caught this too, which is just weird to me. So obviously we had in the book and in in the Wonderful Wizard of Oz book I'm talking about right now, and in The Wiz, this is also true, which is that there are two good witches.
Right. The
North
Good
and
Witch of the
South.
North, who's unnamed, and then the Good Witch of the South, who is Glinda, who we don't
And
meet until
who
the
gets a
very end.
name in The Wiz. She's Ada Pearl
Right. Well, like as I mentioned, like the Good Witch, I mentioned earlier, the Good Witch of the North isn't named in any of the Oz books until I think probably someone else took the name that Frank did give her on one of his play adaptations, because he did the play,
but
was on stage for like 7 years.
But anyway, my point being was so what they did was they had Billy Burke Glinda in the 39 version take basically, oh no, there's just she's both of the North and the South. Did you catch what they did with Glinda in this?
Well, what's what it is. It's what it's always been in both Wicked and the book and the musical. She's Glinda from the Gillikin country, which is the North country. The North is Gillikin.
Which I just find something really interesting, because in the original book she was actually the South.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's
again,
because of,
doesn't matter. It's just interesting to me that they went from South to South and North, and then North only. I'm like, so is the South just like, or what's going on in the South? Are they just chilling over there?
I mean, it's this interesting thing too, because the South in the books is like a third world country, right? Like, the Quadling country is like the red country, right? Like it's in the books, it's like a third world country. It's muddy, and the only thing that's good to get there you can mine rubies. So that's a very interesting commentary on like imperialistic societies and how they destroy and cannibalize these third world countries to take their gems, the things that are precious, that would make them wealthy if these people had any inclination to mine for themselves. But the Quadlings aren't they're very much like indigenous peoples who are about being a part of the land and living in harmony with the land. And so of course when the wizard goes and like, I want your rubies, and give me your rubies, and we're gonna destroy all of these lands. And that's part of one of the big parts of the second book, is that Lear, not knowing what to do, ends up joining the army, and ends up being part of a mission to destroy one of the large cities, and he's like, oh, I can't do this.
Remember reading this was I was looking at the book summaries about an hour ago, and I'm like, wait, are they making Lear Finn? Are they doing a Finn Lear?
Kind of. And it's crazy because like like the
Wicked, The Force Awakens.
Social. Oh man, it'd be fun. Like to see the social commentary that has always been a part of the Wizard of Oz, because Wizard of Oz, like the wizard himself being like such a specific commentary on the people in power, like that has always been in the DNA of the Wizard of Oz. Whether or not L. Frank Baum intended that, you can't get away from the fact that
there's all this debate about like the gold standard and stuff like that, and like to represent
I don't
that
think
stuff.
that was part. I can see people reading into that, and I strongly, I'm right now, without reading more, I haven't done a terrible amount of research. I don't think that was something that he intended, but I think that's an accidental thing that you can read into the text, which I think is wonderful. There are documentaries about that. You guys can go look up.
Yeah. And it was happening around the same time, so it might have been like an unconscious thing. I think that's the most likely idea, which it was an unconscious thing.
Absolutely. And I think the similar, like whether or not like like these things are reoccurring through all imperialist societies, where of course they start to marginalize the lesser people, the people, and as they always want. Well, it's the sacrifice we have to make, right? You know, and they say
Yeah,
that in the movie. You know, like it's for the good of everybody. The
yeah. It's
us marginalizing and taking away and the rights of animals is for the good of everybody. And Marvel says it, and you're just like the fuck. And we see
yeah,
again how
it's
that
just
is so current now, like, but it's always been
yeah.
current, like taking the right away the rights of slaves, taking away the rights of women, taking away the rights of queers, taking away the rights of
Yeah.
trans
I was
people. Like
thinking
those are all
specifically
things that
like
are consumed.
how the demonization of immigrants these days as well.
Yes,
Was
yeah, right.
like
You were
and
going to
yeah,
deport
taking
them
away the
all
right,
back to
yeah.
Mexico because they're all from Mexico. How racist do you have to be to know to think that we're all from Mexico? Thank you very much. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, no,
like,
absolutely, you're right.
no,
Yeah, I
like,
just yeah, just it's shocking. It's like Star Wars is
this is.
political. Oh my god.
Oh wait, Wizard of Oz is political. What?
Wizard of Oz is political. What? Not my good Christian
It's a
Minecraft
story.
server. Um,
Wicked is about a girl who is marginalized because her skin is a different color. So like, and
yeah,
people like,
no,
there's
and
that one bitch who was went on a racist rant about how like we need to stop blackwashing white roles, and she was mad about Alphaba. I'm like, it's a person playing a green person, so it didn't matter what her skin color is
yeah,
underneath.
also,
But it's
yeah,
more
yeah,
important. But it's more important that it is a black woman under there, a queer black
yeah.
woman
I
at
was gonna,
that, under the green, because that makes the story much more
yeah,
important, and
and if you
also
look
is
around at a lot of the people in Oz around her, they make a decent point of this. Like a
yeah,
lot of them are white, and it's
yeah,
never like
the
explicitly
Munchkins
like
especially.
yeah, it's never explicitly said or anything like that. But you do get that feeling that if you just replace the word green with the word black, that not much would be different.
Right.
And I think that that was a very intentional choice, and I think that was a very poignant choice.
I mean, and
Um,
they all comment that like every character, no matter how much we love them, comments on the color of her skin.
oh yeah,
Right?
no,
Oh, you're
absolutely,
green.
and
Oh, I
it's
didn't see you there because you blended in with the foliage, right? Like there are
and
these
that's the thing, of
microaggressions
course,
against
for all
Alphaba.
of these, of course, for everybody who's seen the musical, that's straight ripped from the musical. They make a
Mhm.
big deal about it. They make the birth of Elphaba is the same big deal about it, and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, lyric change, because they say it's atrocious, it's obscene in the music, or at least on the musical soundtrack, but they changed it to it's uncanny, it's obscene. So there's a lyric change there
Interesting.
when they
That is interesting. I'm not as familiar with the thanks thanks for having
but
for
for
being here.
whatever
Just because I
reason,
like wouldn't yeah.
the reveal of the cabbage baby always gets a laugh for some reason. Like that, like in the musical, like when you see the
Interesting.
musical, everyone laughs at that moment, which I don't know why that's funny, but it disturbs me that people laugh at it. And I've never laughed at it. I'm gonna say like, oh, I'm like, but I'm like, I never find it funny, and I don't get why it's funny, but people always laugh at that. And I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
And someone has to explain to me why it's funny.
Yeah, I think probably it's just because it's like again, I don't think I've ever laughed at it personally, but like my personal guess probably would be like just because it's so like random, you know what I mean? Like just
Hmm.
so unexpected. Like it's not like a laugh of oh this is so funny. It's a laugh because like you know this person is green is not something you hear every day.
Hmm. But
Um.
I think a part of it is because of how ridiculous the Cabbage Patch Baby doll is. I'm like,
Oh yeah,
it's
that's
not a
true.
real baby; it's a doll. It's a Cabbage Patch Baby.
That's all.
It's
That's
green.
also
So like that so I get okay, so I think about I do get why it's funny, but like I
yeah.
can't laugh at it because it's this
Yeah.
person of a different skin color, and it's not a joke.
Yeah, and it's yeah, no, and it's this, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's but yeah, no, I'm my God, like if they can make, I'm gonna just say this, and I think we're gonna wrap up here pretty soon because we've been going for a
Yep.
while. I'm gonna make this my last call. If anybody wants to say anything about Wicked, part one, uh, we have the link in the chat right over here. So you can call in. But I just really, if they do part two, like they did this one. And I think I haven't followed the progress of this. Obviously, it's coming out in about a year, so they're quite a bit through filming, I should assume.
They
For
filmed
part
them
two.
together. They filmed them together.
They filmed them together. Okay, so they're probably in post for 2 now.
Mm-hmm.
So
they added 4 songs
to 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
I
remember I remember hearing that they added songs and that they ran into the same problem with that Wicked. I love this. Wicked has the same problem that the Wizard of Oz does in this way, which is that all of the songs are front loaded.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
There's like in the second half of the Wizard of Oz, there are no songs.
Yeah.
They had the jitterbug in there, and they cut it out at the last minute. In Wizard of Oz, and then in Wicked Act 2, there's For Good. And what else?
You start with Thank Goodness. You do. They cut Wicked Witch of the East from the soundtrack, but it's still in the musical. Like, it's in the musical. So I don't know if they're counting that as an addition. Like, I hope they're not counting that as an addition. I'd be really mad if they're counting. Oh, that's one of the new songs, and I'm like,
yeah, no, that's not a new song.
It's just not on the soundtrack for reasons. It
as long as you're mine as well. Yeah.
As long as you're mine, No Good Deed. I'm Not That Girl reprise. What is the Wizard's second song is in there? Wonderful. And yeah, so that's it. There's not a lot of songs.
But still, it's there are not as many songs.
I think you go from like 11 songs to like 7 songs. So that's why if you add like 4, it becomes equal.
Got it. Yeah. Which I always remember being very, very funny. That both of them have the same things. And
one of them is a reprise.
Actually balances.
The
Wiz balances it very well. Because it has Don't Nobody Bring Me No Bad News and Brand New Day, which if anybody has not seen the entire Brand New Day sequence, stop this stream right now. Go watch the entire Brand New Day sequence. It is revelatory. It's like, I love that sequence so dearly.
Sometime we'll have to talk about your thoughts on the new Wiz versus the original Wiz, but we'll talk about that later.
And then that's actually a good point, because I remember I actually got to see the play about a year ago.
The new production.
The new production with Wayne Brady, actually, as the Wiz. This was about a year ago. It was fantastic.
I love that score.
It was all the same songs, but it was obviously they had it was the original aesthetic. It wasn't the city aesthetic. It's so like my mind trying to like reconcile the regular Wizard of Oz aesthetic with the soul music of the Wiz. Was really weird.
Wild.
Just me reconciling those 2 things is crazy. Like they're doing all this great funky music, and yet like they're in dances. All right. So wrapping up, let's anything else you want to say about this film or about Oz in general before we wrap this up?
We talked a little bit at the beginning, like Oz being important. It's weirdly been so important to my adult life from the Wicked to me writing on a show that was Oz themed and all these things that happened. The Wizard of Oz and Wicked are two things that have been so important to me, and the fact that we got this movie that is perfect. I can't think of anything really that could change to make this any better. Like, I think this is perfectly as it should be, and the fact that every time I've watched that ending sequence with Defying Gravity, like the first time I sobbed happy tears. The whole time I was just happy tears at the end of that, and I get chills every time I watch it. Like, I just goosebumps. It's triumphant.
I will say, I'm
a big middle finger to
with the Defying Gravity thing. I heard the original yell in the trailer.
trailer, I'm like, they trying something different. Cool, I get it. I'm kind of a purist and prefer the just original, like the original like I'm gonna play the clip again. This and they do a little. She does a little other run at the end. Ariva does, which again, like I've heard
it works for this.
It's fine. I think it's fine. I like the original the most. But
I think it works with the emotionality of this sequence because it's bigger, it's more, it's longer. I think.
No, and that was gonna be my thing. Is like, would I prefer them to do the original? Yeah, but like that's just such a nitpick. Like it doesn't matter.
The only nitpick I'll have later, it will come later in No Good Deed because there's a riff change from Adina that I think most Alphabas later don't do, and I don't like it. But we'll talk about that in a year when we see part two. When we see what Cynthia does.
I'm
1 year, guys. Let's go.
1 year, and absolutely we will be doing one of these for that. I want to do these for other films I'm excited about. I know, for example, this one I'm almost certain Buck will not be on, but one of my biggest influence, like something that has been as powerful as Wicked as an influence, maybe as The Wizard of Oz as an influence on mine, maybe a little less, but not that much. Is the classic video game Minecraft. And
yeah, no, I won't be a part of that.
Yeah, look, I understand it's getting bashed. I understand.
I'm not bashing it. I'm just too old to have any care.
I understand. This is a very specifically like Gen Z sort of thing, which is like, and I picked it up again quite a bit recently. To see like YouTubers in like I've seen there were YouTubers involved that I used to watch back in the day 6-7 years ago, who are now on the set of the movie, and like like advising them because they played days and days and days and weeks of this game, literally to and just seeing like Mojang and work out with this, all that kind of stuff. It's just incredible to me. So I absolutely will be doing an after show for the Minecraft stream. For the people who want to come to that. But I will also just announce this too, which I think I can announce. Give me a second. I'm texting this person because I don't want to spoil this. If they don't want me to spoil it, Buck, while I'm waiting to hear from them, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you?
You can find me as Highball2814 on everywhere except for Twitter because I got banned from Twitter. There I'm the Bi Republic. So I'm on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. I post occasionally. I will be doing a video. The HasLab, The Ghost will be shipping soon. So I will be doing a review video on that because The Ghost is my favorite ship. And I've done reviews about the Lego set, which I love, I have over there. It's just a little out of reach. And so I love The Ghost. That's my favorite ship. And so I'm super excited for this HasLab vintage collection set. I already have the Sabine and Zab figs, and and so or is it Chopper? I forget. It was the Sabine and Chopper because it also comes with a couple of the Love Cats. But having the whole Ghost crew with the ship set up on a display table, I'm so excited. So Highball2814.
Great. No, thanks for hopping on. We've been talking about this with several mutual friends of ours for months. It's been like I was surprised, pleasantly surprised to see how many people in our close friend group are this obsessed with Oz.
I think the only thing that has compared to the hype for me has probably been The Force Awakens, like hype wise. Yeah.
I'm not like I think like like hype wise for me, I think this is up there with stuff like Obi-Wan for me. Obi-Wan and
okay. Yeah.
Oka and I cannot wait to have this this again in a year.
Oh my god.
I can't wait to really I can't wait to store this like in the proverbial archives along with the OG and the Wiz and Return to Oz and everything. Like it's such a great addition to the pantheon. But give me a second.
Perfect film.
Okay, all right. So the person gave me clearance to say this. These after shows will not be going away. I'm going to reference something I did earlier. This is going to be my second time referencing this one's very specific post-credit scene. Jared, the Dark Jedi of the Nerd Academy podcast, and I, friend of the show, friend of us all, Trivia Loser. I had to mention that. He and I were talking recently, and Jared, due to work stuff, is not going to be able to host after shows on Knights of the Republic like he did for the Acolyte and for Ahsoka for Skeleton Crew.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like Thanos, I have decided, fine, I'll do it myself. So after every episode of Skeleton Crew, I will be live here on In a Galaxy talking with everybody, just like this, but for Skeleton Crew, for their thoughts. And I know, Buck, you and I often joined a lot on there, so if you want to stop by, I'm going to keep it like this, call in stuff like that.
For those of you who don't know, I divorced Star Wars after the cancellation of Acolyte, so I will not be watching.
Okay, yeah, all right.
I haven't read anything. Yeah. I'm not like I. No,
I understood, but I just wanted to mention that I'm going to be doing the Skeleton Crew.
That's exciting.
Here. I'm very excited.
To call in, hang out with Eli.
Pump the Peter Schilling.
Peter Schilling. Call in just to chat with you guys. You guys can spoil it all for me. I don't. Spoilers never bothered me, so.
I was almost about to cross my Idina Menzel references and say the spoilers never bothered him anyway. Anyway,
that's the Frozen. We are getting a Frozen 3 and 4. I'm excited about.
We are, yes. I'm actually excited about that too. You can find me everywhere. My link tree at linktr.ee/_OGfan327 is where you can find. Is where you can find all my links and where I do stuff. In a Galaxy, we just posted yesterday with deleted scenes for the sequel trilogy. Jacob and I going through those. We are doing a very quick half season of Star Wars in a Galaxy, season 19 and a half, as we're calling it. We have recorded both of those episodes on Tales of the Empire. The first one we did just with Jacob and I, and the second one we did with friend of the show, Epic Confrontation competitor, friend to a lot of us, Andy from Force Friends Rewatch. They were with us for the Barris shorts of Tales of the Empire, and then very soon in the coming weeks, we're doing it. Jacob's thrilled about it. I am a little less so, but we're still doing it. Season 20 of Star Wars in a Galaxy, Andor, a Star Wars story, coming very soon.
So exciting!
We have some great guests lined up. I think I think this is the first time I can announce this. The first person we're having is indeed Goose from our friend Goose from Tired of the Force.
Oh, I love Goose.
We're going to have Goose on, I believe, for Reckoning, the third episode of Andor. We're gonna have him on. So I'm very excited to get that started. The next Epic Confrontations, speaking of Goose and speaking of people, will be out very soon. John versus John J-Dub. No, this is the one before that.
Cool.
We that's the next one we're recording. But Jada versus Jane Dalton, we've recorded. I think I'm gonna be able to get it up in the next week.
That was a fun one.
So it's coming. It's coming very soon. I just started editing it today. And yeah, the Coaxium run that Buck mentioned is an event that I'm very excited to.
I had to tease it, man. It's exciting.
It's gonna be chaos. It's
chaos.
gonna be wonderful.
And that's what's gonna be so great about it. I can't wait for you guys to record that one.
I'll give you some updates about that, but yeah, I think that might have gotten a little bit pushed, but we're still doing it. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for this stream. Thanks for everybody for coming out. Thanks for everybody. Thanks to Buck again. Thanks to give me a second. Thanks to wow, I'm just totally bad at managing the comments. Thanks to Ray and Brennan for commenting down below. Leave a comment on this video, like this video. And I think if there's nothing else, I'll yeah, I usually say the first with you. I'm trying to think. Oz bless us all. There you go. Oz bless us all.
She says it. Oz bless you.